one of my favorite coaching stories. There was a guy who he actually lived in my neighborhood, and I hadn't met him before, but I was at the restaurant across the street, sitting at the bar having a beer and ordering some wings, and it was not Hooters. It was Twin Peaks, but it's close to my house. Anyways, it's literally across the street from our apartment complex, and this guy came and sat next to me, and we started talking, and I told him, I said, I'm a life coach. I'm also a park ranger, but I said, I identify as a life coach more. And he said, oh, good. I could use some coaching. And turns out that he was married, and he still is married. He was separated with his wife at the time. They had just separated, and he adopted her two children. That he's the only dad that they've ever known, even though he wasn't their biological father. And he was a little bit younger than me, and he had a decent job. She had a decent job. They just couldn't get together to communicate. They fought like cats and dogs, he said. And we're sitting at the bar and just talking, and I had a couple beers, and he had a couple beers, and we probably did a shot together, and he was a cool dude. I ended up going to his house or his apartment and watching some fights. A couple weeks later, I think he got one of the pay-per-view fights. He was just fun dude, you know. Anyways, and his wife was actually there when the fight, so it changed pretty quickly. But we're sitting at the bar, and he's telling me, he's like, these kids they're like my kids. He goes, they don't know anyone else as a father. So I just look at him and I said, then you got to be a father. You got to be a leader. I said, a leader doesn't just give up and let poor communication be the end of a relationship, especially when there's two kids who believe so much in you. I said, you got to be a dad, you got to be a father, and you got to be a leader. And I said, a leader needs to take charge. A leader needs to take responsibility. And those kids are your responsibility, whether you like it or not. And I said, I know that you feel that they are. So you got to basically get off your ass and be a dad that you're supposed to be, because there's a reason those kids were put in your life. And like I said, a few weeks went by, and his wife moved back in with him with the kids, and he got a job out in another state, so they all moved together. And it was just you could see his face turning from like the casual I'm in the doghouse, or my wife and I are separated, probably going to be divorced. He turned almost within an instant when he finally realized that it was in his hands to change this, to make it right. And he was coming in with his head hung low, and within a couple weeks he had his wife move back in. They started talking about good things, and they still fought. And he goes, yeah, we still fight like cats and dogs, but now we move on. We don't dwell in that. And he goes, well, we're getting better too at it. And they're still married. And that was 2.5 years ago. I think I ran into that guy, and we were talking. That's when I first met him, was about 2.5 years ago. So that's probably one of my favorite coaching stories, is because I just meeting some random dude at a bar possibly has saved a relationship. And we all know how special relationships are. So that's my favorite coaching story, I think.